Hey everyone, excited to be back for this week's edition of Frequently Asked Questions for Commercial Real Estate. In today's video, what I want to do is talk about a topic that is extremely pertinent, in particular for those who are representing landlords in their leasing of their commercial space. And so today I wanted to highlight some of the strategies that you can employ in order to effectively fill a vacancy, whether you are representing the landlord of an office building, a retail space, maybe even an industrial space. Hopefully these strategies within the video will be helpful to you guys. But before we dive in this video, I would greatly appreciate if you can like and subscribe to this channel. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm and ensures more and more people can hear this message and learn about the many facets of commercial real estate. So now you've done that, go ahead and like and subscribe below. So let's go ahead and dive right into this episode. All right, so for those of you guys who are in fact representing landlords, whether you're representing, office buildings or retail buildings or industrial buildings, there is a unique approach that you can take in order to effectively fill the space that you're looking to, fill the vacancy on. I currently am actually working with a landlord for a shopping center looking for potential tenants for different retail uses that they have. And so this is, my take on the process and how I've been able to effectively fill a space for them in their center. So to start off, typically what you want to do is when you're working with a landlord is get a feel of the lay of the land. In my case, it's a strip center that has a variety of different uses on site, including a suntan business. It has a nail salon. There's a tax center as well. So, a lot of service-based uses are actually located on site. And so when I first came on board as far as to be their representative, I tried to get a feel for what the tenant mix looked like so that I could begin to effectively target potential uses across the city. And if you're doing this in an office building, maybe you have other service professionals like lawyers, maybe it's more of a medical center and you got different doctors. So as you start assessing the different uses within the property, you can get a better idea of what type of uses you would like to target. Since this particular center was a service-based use, we were initially targeting service-based uses, particularly in the beauty industry, since we already had a suntan, use on site. We also had a nail salon. We thought it could be a benefit to be able to have, another type of beauty use, or maybe we even considered having a donut shop since it was next to a gas station and a high traffic roadway. We thought maybe that particular use as well could be of value. And so that's how we started the approach of actually marketing and reaching out to potential tenants across the city, in particular multi-location tenants. Now, when we started getting solicitations for the space, as far as seeing the space, that's really where, this process of evaluation came into play. First and foremost, you get a feel for what the particular use is. We had a lot of people reach out to us that wanted to open smoke shops and, liquor stores and et cetera. And from my conversations with the sellers, or I guess I should say the owners of the building, they made it clear that they did not want those particular uses on site. And so getting a feel with your owner about what uses they absolutely do not want on site, and understanding the ramifications of putting particular uses on site and how it may affect, the clientele that ultimately go on site is very, very important. In particular, with the smoke shop use, for example, it can make it difficult to seek financing in the future if you wanted to. A lot of banks do not like financing buildings that do have these particular uses in it. So it's definitely important to think about what uses that are approaching you so that you can properly vet them and make sure they're not going to negatively impact the client going forward. So that's number one, is verify the tenant use, and then figure out if this tenant use in particular is going to support the tenant mix. So in the case of a retail setting, if a beauty service client comes towards you and wants to sign a lease, in this particular center, it would have been a benefit because now you have a lot of supporting uses that aren't directly competing with each other that could create like a good environment for, what they're ultimately trying to do. So that was a value. And, if a particular use like that came your way, it may be worthwhile pursuing and considering as well. So that's number one. Number two is understanding their financial standing. Not all businesses are created equal. Startups are inherently risky. So although you don't necessarily turn away 100% of startups, you definitely want to get a very good understanding of their financial standing. So typically asking for a personal financial statement, some form of other documents that showcase their ability to execute on the lease term is very important. If they're a multi-location operator, a lot of times, especially if they're operating at scale, you can be a little bit more secure in understanding their financial standing. Therefore, it may or may not be something you have to dig into as far as maybe you would with a startup. So that's number two, is getting a clear understanding of their financial standing. And then finally, number 3, once you get a understanding of, number 1, what the use is, their financial standing, and you've shown them the space and they've shown interest in actually moving forward as far as submitting an LOI and executing a lease, this is when the negotiation comes into play. Now, you as a real estate professional need to get a very clear understanding on the market. Right now, for example, leasing industrial property, you can't find space to lease. I mean, it's a very, very hot market. So as the landlord, they have a lot of leverage. So even if the tenant is of solid financial standing and they do have a lot of credibility, the concessions that they can demand are not nearly as high as what you would see maybe in, an office setting, depending on where you're located around town. Here in Louisville, Kentucky, our downtown office market is struggling, so the lease concessions that people are willing to give for well-qualified tenants are a lot higher. But that's just based on the market itself. So getting a really clear understanding of what the market is going to help you and your client succeed in the marketplace. And then, once you get to a point where you understand your leverage points, getting down to the table and getting a feel for what their expectations of the other party are, and then maybe going back and forth and saying maybe they want a little bit of a reduction in rent. Maybe you can propose something to say, you know what, instead of a reduction in rent, how about we allocate XYZ amount in tenant improvements? Or maybe in exchange for, reducing your rent slightly, maybe we'll sign a long-term lease. Maybe they wanted a 3-year lease, have them sign a 5-year lease, or maybe even a 10-year lease, that sort of thing. So, there's different ways you can structure agreements such that it's beneficial to your client, which is ultimately the person you are representing. So at the end of the day, there may be a time where a client submits or a potential tenant submits something and it's just maybe not a good fit, or maybe they don't have the solid financial standing that you would require. Therefore, you really just have to be firm and let them know that this is not going to be working out and moving forward. And that sometimes can be an uncomfortable conversation, but again, it's business, and as long as you are honest and forthright about your talking points, people respect that as well. So hopefully you gain some value from this video. Hopefully now you understand a process to follow as you're going through the process of identifying a potential tenant for a building that you are trying to represent or lease up, I should say. If you are in the Louisville market and you own commercial property and you need help leasing it up, it can be difficult to do depending on what property type you are. I'm happy to meet with you and grab coffee and get a feel for what exactly you're trying to accomplish and what give you an idea of what the market looks like so we can best help you lease up your space. If that's the case, feel free to reach out to me at 502-536-7315, or you can reach me via email at raphael@crisantigroup.com. Along with that, if you like this video, please, please, please like and subscribe to this channel. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm and ensures more and more people can hear this message and learn about the many facets of commercial real estate. So thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time.